Hello. This is my video assignment for engaging with the social dilemma. Sorry for the delay. I really enjoyed this documentary. I think a lot of it would have been a lot more boring if they didn't do a lot of the kind of visualizations that they did. That kind of is a way to like bring people who aren't familiar with this kind of stuff, like bring them in. But it did exaggerate a few things when it came to the issues with social media. Um, I like they represent like the algorithm for sending notifications to people with apps with like these three dudes who are like psychoanalyzing this guy, which is kind of how it works a little bit. But instead of like actual people being like this, what about this? What's going on? It's like a robot or an AI designed to kind of do that essentially. A scene that really caught my eye, and at first when I watched it, I was like, that's not like how that works. Is when they do one of these like visualizations, they do this like fictional dinner table scene where the mom's like, all right, everybody put your phones in this like locked Tupperware thing. And so everyone puts their phones in there while they're having dinner. Um, the youngest daughter goes over after like a few minutes and grabs the thing and like smashes it. It's like glass goes everywhere just so she can get her phone because she couldn't have it for you know not have it for more than 5 minutes. Which was like that's not how that works. That's not what happens, right? And I mean, in like most general cases, like obviously something like that wouldn't happen, but it's not as like out of the question as I thought. I was looking up couple scholarly articles from the Utah Tech library database, and at first I was looking at like some of the more I wanted to get a more like positive and negative effect like idea like how social media affects like youth. That's what both of my articles on. And there's I mean even to this day one of these was only posted like a month ago. These are pretty crazy. The first article I was reading about was from 2022, and it's a transdiagnostic cognitive behavioral conceptualization of the positive and negative roles of social media use in adolescents' mental health and well-being, which is really long, but it's a huge paper. I didn't get to go through all of it, but one of the main points it says is the difference between active and like inactive social media use, where something has like active social media use such as like engagement with other people or like that connection between um, the connection between people can be a positive at points. I think this is like referring to a lot of things like a lot of the positive arguments people make, like making connections with relatives and loved ones and people you don't get to see in person all the time. I think that was their kind of like explanation for that. Uses like that for social media can be positive, very much so actually. Whereas things like inactive or like subconscious social media use, things like this is where we talk about like the scrolling, the point where you like, all right, I'm gonna go on TikTok, and you look at your clock and 3 hours passed, right? That can be like a very negative effect in multiple ways, such as like um when you like unconsciously do that like connection, that's where um your subconscious can be like affected by those by social media in a very negative way. Things like body imagery and other things being kind of subconscious rather than you consciously thinking about it, right? So and that was like something we kind of already we discussed a lot. Like there's obviously positives and honestly a lot more negatives to social media, at least for the time being, or like positive or potential negatives going on in our near future. But the second article I found, Social Sickness, which was published last 2 months ago at the end of February, so a little bit more in the month, kind of stuck out to me. It talks a little bit more about a specific TikTok trend. When we saw very recently the um, the point where um, Tourette's syndrome became like a huge um, chain on TikTok, where a lot of people who were sharing their like Tourette stories or like videoing their tics would get huge amount of views on TikTok. And it was actually found that um, it talks about one specific story of a minor who at a dinner table, similarly to the scene that we got. Um, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but like a few months ago, started having ticks, right? And it found out it was a lot of the ones that were that became popular in social media. So like I think one of them was like saying beans a lot, which was like a thing that someone she followed did a lot, and that was something that she like picked up, right? Eventually got back to the point where she was taken into the hospital for like seizure syndromes, and it was found that a lot of it, like she was okay. She didn't have Tourette syndrome. The Her mother kind of knew that because I think someone she grew up with had Tourette syndrome, and a lot of it like didn't match up. And the doctor said the same thing when she was taken to the hospital, and it was found that like a lot of studies that it became kind of a bit of a trend that these things that young adolescents see on TikTok, they kind of encapsulate a bit. And there's a lot of like psychological findings that I think one thing that kind of really stood out to me between 2009 2019, rates of mental illness shot between 50% and 150%, and that's a lot with like obviously how that affects um, um, and then the article goes on to like what we should do to limit phone usage and like how, but it just goes to show how much like mentally this could affect, especially it seems like this article pushes like adolescents, people who like are like preteens and younger. Um, and that and it says a specific thing in the article where like the daughter ends up like it in the middle of the dinner table starts like shaking around and pounding it and saying like and like doing a bunch of stuff that she saw on TikTok. So whether that was like for attention or other things like that, it was just really, it was like it's a direct article that I found in a database that kind of directly links to a scene similar to what I thought was kind of like anti um anti social media like propaganda a bit, like kind of pushing those lines with like how their visualizations kind of went while they're in the documentary. Um I saw was a couple interesting points and kind of like flicked something in my brain a little bit. Um I think the social dilemma is definitely something to consider, and for like people who have never studied social media and how it works and its implications, it's definitely like a great like crash course on like simplifying kind of and visualizing in a way that us mere mortals can understand, you know. So yeah, I'm glad to watch it, and I can't wait to see more of the like psychological effects of social media, and studying that more. So, I think so.